All right. Gonna check one more thing here.
Let's go.
Is that Nini? I hear you, Nini. Okay, we're gonna get started. So, first of all, I'm Seb, game director at Future Trash, and this is FOAD. If you haven't seen the project before, I'll walk through some of the basics here, starting with this new main menu that we built. Really excited to show off some of these fancy features here. We love this idea of having like a seamless menu between all of the functions and the actual play screen. So you'll see the camera swaps like this, real nice and smooth. I'm hoping it's smooth on stream. Feel free to let me know if it isn't. And we'll start with the Armory. So this is actually where we will eventually have players be making edits to their FOADs. So realistically, this would be swapping through the FOADs you already own. But for right now, it's basically just running a procedural generation algorithm and pumping out new FOAD designs. And as I swap through here, you'll see that we have 7 different FOAD body types in rotation right now. And I can do this all day, and it'll make these really fun, bespoke designs. You'll notice that everything from the material that's used on the FOAD, the eyes, the pupils, the face, the facial features, and the tint, it's all modular. And eventually users will be able to actually make edits to their FOADs that have light impact on gameplay, but they're more just for cosmetic rarity and to kind of offer a sense of authorship to the FOAD. So I'll swap through here a few times, just kind of show off some of the designs. It's pulling from a pretty large pool of dynamic attributes, and it's pretty unlikely that we ever see a FOAD twice. So we also have these fun keychains, which are composite, or eventually will be composite NFTs. You can attach those to any FOAD, and then if I go back to the main menu here, you'll also see that there's a pair of shoes, which will eventually be implemented into the Armory as well. And in addition to being able to make those changes, you're going to see the statistic changes that kind of result from the mods you make. So I'll swap here a few times and find one I really like before we hop into a game. Okay, this guy's sweet.
So we want to talk about like the differences too between them.
Yeah, good idea.
Like
okay, so
that standpoint.
Yeah, so eventually you'll be able to see this on like a UI pop-up. But for now, I'll just talk about. We really like this idea of taking from the Nintendo playbook and establishing characters that feel different to play with, but they're all very viable. And if I pick Bowser in Mario Kart, I know what to expect, right? He's going to be hard to knock off balance. He's going to probably have a higher top speed, but a slower rate of acceleration than Peach or Toad. But there's still a reason to play as Bowser, right? And so if you look at the smaller FOADs, let's say this would be more like your lightweight DPS character in Overwatch, where you're getting around faster, but you're pretty squishy and easy to knock off balance. And then you go to the bigger guys, the medium guys, so on and so forth. You can imagine what the differences in play styles like. And we're working hard to make sure that not only is there balancing in terms of like, why would I want to play as one FOAD as the other, but that the environments and the trap designs in these games that we're about to show you also purport and support certain FOAD builds over others. So there's always a reason to try different FOADs, and there isn't one that is just OP. There's really just different play styles. For example, if I were to choose the Cardiac, the bigger FOAD, I can bully around other small FOADs and just dash them into the lava. You'll see in a second here. Whereas if I'm the smaller FOAD, I have to be more careful, but I might be able to get to certain points of interest a little bit faster. So we'll select this FOAD, and we'll run it. So here, we have this functionality here. I can actually host a game. We're going to use the testing zone v3 today. We're excited to show off some new changes we made to this map. It's probably the most fleshed out visually and functionally that we've, as far as maps we've done so far. So really excited to show this off. So I'm going to call it hosted game 1. And here we are immediately dropped into the pregame lobby. And hopefully my comrades will be joining up soon here. But in the pregame lobby now, you actually can run around and kind of cause havoc here. So we have these like set dressing prop items here that we can just mess with. They're affected by explosions. And then I can also go to the shrines over here, which eventually will actually be the main game mechanic, as you'll see in a second here. The new scoring system has been updated. Previously, you just did a bunch of damage and got scoring for that. And now you actually have to collect the money that drops from the shrines. So this is a Shrine Showdown mode. And this map, you'll see brand new stuff. We kind of wanted to build around the central drill here, which will eventually shoot lava out, and it'll be like act as like a dynamic trap. But for now, I'll just show off the Shrine Showdown mode. So on my UI here, I can see these shrines kind of located around the map. And my goal is to get to them as soon as I can, deal damage to them with my explosion ability here, and then collect the money that drops out. And so as soon as I destroy one, it actually spawns a new one somewhere else on the map. So there are these preset locations. I think there are 9 of them actually. And I don't know where that next shrine is going to show up. But now I got to like check my map here. So I see that that one's the closest for me. So I'm going to try and get over there. So I can use a combination of dashing, jumping. We have these fun bounce pads, which kind of set you in this linear path here. Point being, though, I got to try and get over there as soon as I can without falling into this lava, because that'll set me back sometime. So I'll come over here. Conveniently placed wall jump right here for me to get up to the shrine. And boom, back at it. And so the goal here with this mode, we imagine this suitable for 20 to 40 players, especially on a map this size, so that there's constantly action on every corner of the map here. In a moment here, I'll show you what it's like when there's a bunch of FOADs exploding the same shrine. It gets pretty hectic. And then there's also this whole idea where you're not actually getting points for just dealing damage. You're getting points for collecting the money. And so I could just kind of grieve people and go and collect all the money that they just worked hard for, which is kind of funny. We also recently added these roller traps. So these are kind of interesting little balancing act here. They can really mess you up if you aren't patient with them. So that's a fun little trap we recently added. I'll get up to this shrine here. Do the same thing. This is another trap recently added, this spinner. It'll actually knock you. It's not the most annoying trap, but if you hit it at the wrong angle, it'll really launch you. I got lucky there by not landing in the lava. But yeah, there's a whole collection of new traps we added. We're really excited to show them off. And you can also see these beach balls flying around. Those are fun. Those are more of just like a minor nuisance. You'll see that they're launching from areas where, like, for example, this corridor over here. I'll show you in a moment. Let me get over there. So yeah, here we have these like kind of linear pathways that we're going to place around the maps, where we imagine these are like chokeholds or choke points where a bunch of foes are trying to get through, and then we have the beach balls coming out of the walls and these traps. It's like he just got wrecked. Who was that? Is that you, Nate?
It was me.
Scott. Again, though, 40 FOADs, total chaos with all these traps. Every corner of the map has something happening, and there's going to be 3 of these live shrines at any given time, right? So here's another route that you might not see at first, but you're able to actually get up here, and I can drop down and get to the shrine a little bit faster. So we also love this idea of having a ton of options around the map. Get out of here. Oh my gosh. Okay, I got the ruby. That's all that matters. We love this idea of having optionality. So the way these maps are going to be built eventually will be with a ton of procedural elements, so that they're not the same map every time. And this idea, this kind of tenet of the design is that if I want to get to that shrine, there's going to be like 6 different ways to do it. Some of them are good, some of them are bad. One of them might be optimal. But given like the chaos that's happening and where I am at the map, where I am on the map, you never know what that pathway might be, especially when the FOADs perform differently, right? So depending on my FOAD, I might have a different option here. So an example of that is also these explosive cores we recently added. So these are these new explosives. I can deal damage to these, and when they're almost dead, that means I know that they're about to spawn a giant explosion here. So if I time this right, this will direct me in an angle away from the explosion. So I can actually use that as a form of movement. And interestingly enough, the big FOAD, for example, has a much stronger explosion knockback, so it would launch me way, way further. Whereas as opposed to if I'm the medium-sized FOAD or the psych, the tiny guy, I'm not getting as much of that effect. So it might not be a great means of movement as that FOAD. However, as a medium FOAD or a large FOAD, it makes a lot more sense. Then maybe if I see this as damage and I want to get over there more quickly, I'll position myself on this ledge and get launched over here and be able to traverse the map more quickly, right? So just fun stuff like that that kind of take advantage of the explosion abilities we love. Certain FOAD builds will have bigger wall jump capabilities. Certain FOAD builds will have slightly longer dashes, right? And we just really want players to feel incentivized to experiment and try out different builds, because there really is no perfect answer.
Too, with the map, there's a lot of, like he's saying, there's a lot of ways to get someplace, but as we're adding these pieces now, there's a lot of destruction that can happen on prop pieces that you can use early game to get certain areas quicker. But then as the game progresses, those pieces are going to be gone from the map, and it's going to change kind of the rhythm of how you traverse the map. There'll be pipes that are broken. If you're using like a dumpster or trash can to get up higher, and that's gone, you'll basically have to find alternative ways to move around.
Yeah. Actually, let's run one back, and I want to show off the little kind of rock structure that's in
Yeah.
the way. So here, I'll do.
Right. And then there's destructible props that once destroyed will speed up the way you can get places by opening up tunnels. There's actually, Seb, you can find the secret safes that are hidden around the
Oh
game
yeah,
behind destructible props.
the game's up, guys. It's called game number 2, I believe. But yeah, to Scott's point, so certain trash cans, these will not respawn on the map. We have items that will respawn and the ones that won't. So you can imagine, yeah, like he's saying, the play space will evolve kind of. So late game strategies will slightly alter from early game strategies depending on the map. And again, this is just in reference to Shrine Showdown, right? The plan here is to have multiple game types. This is our first one. I think it encompasses a ton of the mechanics, so it was the perfect place to start. But eventually, we will be incorporating things like checkpoint, point A to B rushes, and modes where, let's say, we have an encroaching gas, and we have to actually last man standing within the hill. We're calling that one Knockout City. But yeah, we're just starting with Shrine Showdown here. So this is an example of this new feature where we can have a destructible that's in the way of a path. So in the beginning of the game, this might be here. As soon as I blow it up, though, this pathway is now open, and it will be for the rest of this match. That doesn't mean that we won't have obstacles in the way that do respawn as well. The kind of things like these cores, because we want these to be usable throughout the game, we're going to have these on like kind of a respawn system so that there's always an option here. I love the big explosion. It's so satisfying to just get launched and land right on a shrine. Yeah, ton of map elements with dynamic features to kind of make the play space feel fresh and new every single time you play.
This mode 2, as you get down to, I think, the last 5 shrines, they become mega shrines, and their value almost doubles. So near that end mark, it basically gives people the ability to kind of have that comeback. But additionally, the map itself and the prop pieces, they all have a chance of dropping a certain amount of money. And then the safes that are hidden around the map that Seb can find too, they're almost equivalent to a shrine. They're just unmarked, and they're going to be random. They'll have spawn points, but they'll probably, like on a map like this, they'll probably have 20 to 30 spawn points, and will only spawn, up to 5 or so per game. So if you're having a hard time getting around, or you've just been unlucky with the map itself, you can also kind of divert from doing the objective with the shrines and do damage, property damage value, just from objects and finding those safes too to keep you in the game. And then each game mode is it's its own round. So what you're doing is we're eliminating X amount of players from each round that'll go on to the next one. So you don't need to get first place here. You just need to get in that top 10.
Yep, qualify for the next game type, right? I'm actually
Which sometimes could be the difference of picking up $1 from a trash can. So
every dollar.
I can't believe I didn't get that green ruby after all that work.
I'm so sorry, Seb. I'll just let you get it for the stream.
All right, we're going for the other. I know the map too well now, but I'm going for this other one. I think it should be up here.
Cool.
Oh, the other side.
Yeah.
Is it? No.
Oh, no, wait. Yeah, it's on the other side.
No. Okay, I missed it.
It's okay. You've got 2 minutes to find
But
it.
yeah, I love the idea of there being kind of vaults and shrines hidden around the map procedurally, and you never really know. But if you happen to like catch wind of one, or you see a player going for one, you might follow them and try and steal the gem. There's just always so many kind of options here for gameplay experiences.
Yeah, and we're still pre-alpha. We're still testing a ton of mechanics and ideas here. I mean, we've talked about incentivizing kind of player griefing and PvP too. So there's a good chance we're going to be testing out here within the next month or so. When you kill players, they actually drop X% of their current money, and you'll be able to snag that if they fall into the lava. Same thing, it'll bounce onto the nearest platform or shore. Because we do want to encourage annoying behaviors for sure.
100%. I think half of the fun of Fall Guys, for example, which is obviously a great inspiration for this game, is getting to the finish line really early and then just turning around and like trying to ruin someone's game
Exactly.
because you know you're gonna win anyways. You know.
Yeah, you
Um,
hate it when it happens to you, but it's also really fun. So
yeah. Do you guys want to stand over here and we can show off some of the interactions between the FOADs and the physics?
Yeah, let's do
yeah,
it.
here, knock
So
me into the lava like a
a
monster.
big part of this game is obviously you're going to be surrounded by a ton of FOADs, right? And so the interactions between the FOADs is a huge point of emphasis for us. So I can use, yeah, you can see if someone's within your explosion radius, depending on your FOAD build, you'll knock them back, right? And again, this is an area where being the psych, who is faster and able to traverse the map faster, is going to be at a disadvantage because their explosion knockback isn't as strong. So I'm able to bully like the psychs in these certain situations here, and I can just get them out of my way with my dash ability or my explosion. Um,
And you'll
and again,
also
it just
see
comes
with
down.
right above Seb's head is just a really basic like stamina meter too. So actions do have a temporary cost that comes back over time, and that's something that will play into the different FOADs as well. Who has more stamina, or what kind of explosions require more or less stamina?
Right. So the dash uses stamina, right? I have about 2 dashes per burn here, and this is obviously being tinkered with. You know, we don't know the perfect balance here. This is all being figured out.
And I
But
think the Psych's got like 4.
yeah, the Psych's got more stamina for that type of ability. And then another cool thing we added, you'll see here if I hit. Oh, I'll run another
You'll
game.
see here the end.
Game number 3. Show off a couple more things that we added. We can actually show this off in the pregame lobby. We added this system where if I make contact with something with my explosion, you'll see this kind of like Street Fighter-esque hit marker, which is really cool. Satisfying little feedback loop. The game's called game number 3, guys, if you're able to join. There we go. And the same thing will happen if I hit a player. They'll get that little cross to kind of indicate that.
And you'll
I've
actually
made the
see
hit.
even now the cardiac, when you do your normal base explosion, he barely even moves.
Yeah. Beefy boy.
Yep,
Yeah,
that's
and you
just
see I go further than him.
on a shrine point. He's gonna get there. The chance of him getting to a shrine late are a lot higher. But if somebody does like an ult or tries to blow somebody off the edge, they get the last of that money. As a cardiac, you have a much easier time hanging on to those areas and picking up the cash.
You guys
So you
want
can
to
just kind of be like the late thief or whatever.
get launched by an ult?
Yeah. Here we go.
Oh yeah. Gotta show off the ultimate.
Oh my
Wow.
god!
So
Rejected the.
we have the spammy abilities, right? The dash and this explosion, this base explosion. And then if you charge up your ultimate, kind of think of it as like Eva ultimate in Overwatch, where you have this countdown timer. Certain FOADs will have faster countdowns, certain ones will have longer ones. And you basically want to get out of the way because it's going to launch you to somewhere you probably don't want to be. And then the FOAD that actually initiates the explosion, which I'll do right now, is forced to respawn. So I actually get like kind of a stun lock as well from that.
And that's
Just
another
fun feature.
stat that's gonna change per FOAD. And then additionally, like each of the ults themselves can be kind of like status affected. So we're working on like EMPs, shot, like stun type things, dot damage, AOE damage. That basically the alt will have a secondary utility for. So some are going to be better for shrines, some are going to be better
Mhm.
in PvP versus PvE combat.
So you can see there, the ultimate did a ton of damage to the shrine, like one shots the shrine almost. But I'm not there to collect the money necessarily. So if I'm going to do that, I better make sure that either I knock all the FOADs out of the way when I respawn, or I'm alone.
Yeah,
So
kind of like you were
there's-
saying with that Diva comparison. There's a risk reward to it. If you do it improperly, you pop out as Diva and you get nuked right away.
Yeah,
Disregard,
you're just the
if you
squishiest
do it
character in the game.
improperly, then everyone's going to stay on there. You're not going to get any of that cash.
Really quick, looking at the chat, there's people are asking, can we blow each other up?
Yes.
Yes.
Where right now it's more of a knockback. Actually, somebody knocked me all the way up here.
Yeah.
By the way, that was insane.
So the plan
but-
is the magma will kill you, right? And that'll cause you to force you to respawn. We're also going to place kind of blast zones, a la Super Smash Bros. On the higher points of the map, such that if you get knocked into like a blast zone, you'll also have to respawn. But the ult won't directly kill or force you to respawn, right? So
yeah, not yet. It's one of those things that we'll play with. Like we've talked about having. You can see this meter in the top left. This is actually something we haven't talked about yet. It's not in this map, but there are pickups on the map that add to that meter, and that meter is your alt meter. Right now, we're just kind of alting freely. But essentially, the higher that percentage goes, there's a certain cap you need to hit per FOAD to ult, and then you can go over that cap to make your ult even more powerful. And again, being pre-alpha and trying new features out, one thing we've kind of discussed is that Smash Bros. Ability to become significantly more vulnerable if you go over a certain percent. Even though you're more powerful with your ult, you can be more susceptible to getting blasted way further.
Yeah, I love that. I love the idea of the rage mechanic.
Yeah.
It's super fun. And
No,
then
thanks
maybe,
for
But it's gonna be
that float is
sick to see
like
a
glowing
200
red and fuming because he's like
Yeah,
maxed out on his ult.
and that yeah, right. And then you get a
Oh, I got rocked
200%
by the spinner.
ulting on a shrine point at the end of the game. It's pretty much GG for anyone that's like sitting next to him.
Awesome. No, thanks for that question, Elrun. We've got some other follow-ups based on that. Can you interrupt an ultimate with a normal knockback? And if you died, you have the option to spectate.
Here, come in that middle section. Essentially, what you can do right now, if somebody's ulting, is Seb, go ahead and ult.
Hmm.
If you want to try and get out of it, especially because I'm like a cardiac, if they're smaller, you can dash and shove them. They're still going to ult, but they're
Oh,
going to
yeah.
ult wherever they land.
Totally.
Because we've definitely had it. So hitting a point, somebody ults, and then I'm about to. You can knock them off
the
that top
chaos.
point.
The chaos is
Yeah,
fun.
the ults are really
Uh,
funny. And yeah,
what
it'll
is
come
it?
down to like balancing, right? It's like, do we want maybe the ults to charge up and you have to collect things around the map to actually get it? Should it be time based, right? These are things that'll come down to playtesting.
Elron's asking, what do I lose when I fall into lava? We're thinking of essentially losing like a 10% penalty on the money you've collected so far, but there's some other interesting options too. Obviously, the biggest thing right now is you're losing is time. You're losing the ability to go collect more resources, blow more stuff up, and find secret.
Yeah, but it could be the energy you've collected for your ult. It could be a reduction there.
Yep.
It could be like Nate's saying, your money.
Mm-hmm.
The money could just be burnt up, or it could pop out and be collectible by you or another player. I mean, when there's 40
Right.
people running around, if you drop something, there's a really good chance someone's going to snag it before you can get back to it.
Other questions. Green Beans asking about modes like capture the flag.
Oh yeah, I'm a huge fan.
I
Yeah,
love
so
like
the 3 modes, I'll go into depth about the 3 modes really quick. This first one, obviously Shrine Showdown, we know. The checkpoint rush mode will be kind of what we might be used to in games like Fall Guys, where you spawn everyone in the same area. The whole goal is to get to the finish line within the top 40 or whatever, so you make it to the next game. And so for that mode, you can imagine the lava and things like that, and losing time on that will become kind of more of an issue. Hosted game number 5. And that mode will basically be a series of these fun traps and little kind of set pieces that we've created, stringed out into a pseudo linear path where you'll have optionality, but the goal is to get to a finish line. And then the third mode is Knockout City, where last man standing. That's more suitable for smaller player populations, right? Maybe like 5 to 10, where we have like an encroaching barrier on the outer edge of said hill, and you have to stay in the hill, stay alive to the last one, right? So games like Capture the Flag, I love the idea of doing that eventually.
yeah. We're just kind of brainstorming about like the crown version of that, like where you might have a crown that you
Yeah.
snag, which would be really fun.
Yeah, essentially X amount of people have, depending on how big the game mode is, this could be like a final match. So, you could be like three people FFA, but essentially it's tag. Whoever's got the crown is trying to escape everybody else, and knocking into them or blowing them up is going to drop that crown for pickup. And then whoever either has it for the longest period of time or has it when the timer runs out is the winner.
Right. And given the layout of these game modes and the plans for example, this Shrine Showdown, Shrine Showdown mode, there's no reason why we can't take both, split the players into 2 teams and just have the same exact game play out, right? And then it becomes really interesting because certain game types will support the bigger FOADs, the smaller FOADs, so on and so forth, and you're going to want to have a diverse team. So let's say you're hopping in with your friends. It would probably make sense and be to your advantage to have optionality and have, at least one big boy on your team that can kind of like bully around and stay inside hills and so on and so forth.
Right. Definitely game modes could encourage that team swap, especially, we talked about, kind of like Rocket League style games using some physics objects to either score a goal or carry something to a certain area or kick it, which I think plays well into what we're doing, that there's a lot of, physics going on already. And then, I mean, we've already been able to kind of utilize what we've got into creating a few additional modes. Like we do have another map that we made before this, and it's more of like a time trial. It's actually pretty hard, but it's how many points can you get within a certain period of time, and there's giant collection items on the map that you have to snag, and that's something that we're planning to release for people to try out in January or February and be able to download it as like a single player and be able to essentially post and through a leaderboard your top scores.
I mean, we could literally play a game of football in this little stage right here.
Yeah,
We love this idea of having these fun props, kind of sporadically placed around the map, but even more kind of like neutral objective based props. So maybe like giant volleyball. There's just one of them, and we got to score goals on each other.
Yeah.
The possibilities are really endless, and we're just trying to build a sandboxy feel revolving around these fun explosion mechanics, right? So even these volleyballs already work. Like I can punt one of these into a player and kind of knock.
Yeah, I
them
have
up down.
jumped a few times and landed on one and missed my jump and gone straight into the lava, which is super dope. So
Hovedo is
got it.
asking about
They despawn after 10 seconds.
ability to kill each other in capture the flag ? So like the ability to kill each other, we've kind of talked about loosely of having some sort of health, but right now we're kind of focusing more on power meter, a bit like Smash, where there might be a chance you're more susceptible to knockbacks the more damage you take. I think Scott, you might have touched on that earlier. But yeah, that's kind of how we're viewing health right now. That being said, it is always fun to eliminate players, so we may look at that more.
yeah, and I mean, there's a general penalty to falling into lava that is essentially wherever you are. I mean, it can also be used to an advantage too. You're brought back to that starting respawn point. I mean, there's a chance that that's actually closer to a shrine, so like use it, I guess. But I think if the environment is the only ability to kill for now, we've been having a good time with that, just simply trying to grief people into the lava.
Yeah.
It is.
I just want to show. Can someone just jump in the lava right in front of me? I want to show the shoes, the sad shoes that remain of your FOAD when you die on the map.
Do that?
Actually, if I ult, I think it'll do it
Yeah.
too.
Oh,
Basically, on death. Oh yeah, you can talk about the keychains.
Yeah.
So when we were in the armory earlier, first of all, these decals that the FOADs leave on the floors are also really cool. As a result of their explosion, just fun little effects like that. But there are attachable keychains and attachable shoes to the FOADs, right? And so the idea that you should leave them behind when you explode is kind of funny and slightly morbid, but mostly just funny. And we have this idea that like keychains, we could have side quests, right? Because every game, who doesn't want side quests? So maybe there's a side quest on any given day to collect 20 players' keychains, like fallen players' keychains. So these will actually be collectible on the map too. They won't just be mindless props, right? So whether it's picking up someone's shoes or their keychains, another big option for game mode, side quests, and just general gameplay additions, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's kind of too. I mean, everything's a little bit of a sandbox right now, so we're kind of using every new feature we add into making a new map. I mean, again, I think we've made probably 5 maps now, and we just keep reiterating based on new features that come in. So that's just going to keep happening. Like he's saying, even in this map, we're plotting for what's coming in next. Like the drill is adding a pretty cool mechanic that the beach balls utilize a little bit right now, which will essentially pick random targets all over the map. You'll see like a decal of where these fireballs are going to land. And you could be at a shrine, you could be safe, and then the environment's going to end up messing up the game. There's also the ability to do player activated props like that as well. I think, Seb, if you look up, we've got the props in there now, but they don't fully function. There's hanging tanks that are explosive that if a player above a building hits, it'll drop those tanks onto the players below them that are on a shrine or a key movement point, and it'll explode them off the area when it impacts. So having stuff like that where the players are able to kind of dictate the environment from a trap standpoint is something that's lending itself to even like the level design.
If you want to join game number 6, Scott, and we can I can look up and show them what you were talking about, because the game ended right as you started talking about that.
Yeah, green bean. Yeah, it is like kind of collecting the dog tags from COD to confirm the kill. That's definitely a bit what the keychains are like.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
that's fun.
Cool. Didn't Gears of War do it first though?
I think they might have. I mean,
just give credit where it's due.
Well, technically, I mean,
Support our epic brethren.
Diablo 1, you were collecting ears, man.
It's true. The ears.
You're right.
How far back can we go?
Kababish asked about power-up items.
Oh
Yeah. What do we have right now? We've got some stuff working.
We have some. They're not quite ready to be shown off yet, but they're really close. We basically have 3 different buff types. I believe there's one that gives you essentially more stamina for about 30 seconds, so you can dash a lot more or use your mini explosion a lot more. And then there's one that's a jump buff that I think lets you do a double jump. And then there's also going to be one, I forget what the third one is. There's a speed buff where you can actually run about 20% faster. So, and they're potentially going to be stackable depending on how many we end up adding around the map. But they're also going to be the power-ups. They can spawn at essentially these specific bases, but they can also spawn from destroying items too. So, like if I destroy a dumpster, 1 item every 5 times, their power-up might pop up out of that too.
And there may be like rarity
Yeah.
tiers of those as well. You may be able to find a stronger one if it does stack.
Yep.
That instead of giving you 1% buff for speed or 5% buff, it gives you 20 for that a lot of time. Or
Right.
and we've talked about other things. Originally, some of the ideas we'd kind of like written down, which I'm sure we'll come back to at some point once this area is feeling good, is some bigger features that are more game changing, like the ability to alter your ultimate ability in the game mode instead of outside the game mode, being able to have pickup items like a cluster. So every time you ult, instead of doing in one radius, maybe it's doing it in 3 and then within a larger zone. Or like we're talking about the status effects, you may be able to in-game get like one-off items that you can't get just from a keychain or from one of your FOAD abilities alone.
Right. Right.
I also
And
love
that
this
could
idea.
make
Scott,
you
you kind of
OP
talked about
from
it.
that.
Love the idea of having AoE explosions, right? So right now every FOAD has this base explosion, but eventually we really want to incorporate things like ice, uh, you know,
Right.
EMP explosion, where I disable other FOAD's abilities within my radius, just so you can fill more gaps in terms of team strategy. So if you are coming in as a group of 4, or even you get put on a bigger team, playing a big game of capture the flag, for example, you're going to want kind of a wide variety of skill sets, because if someone can ice out an area, I'm sure if anyone's played Valorant, the healer class in that game can literally just like make it slow walk people with the orbs, right? So things like that totally affect inter team mechanics and stuff. We love adding that, and that'll be mostly facilitated through those modifier attachments like the shoes, keychain, stickers, and so on and so forth. Not in a pay to win way. Want to establish that we are definitely avoiding that to the extent that all players, free to play or paid players, will have access to those abilities. It'll just be a cosmetic differences between those rarity tiers, and we'll get into that at a later date.
Yeah, and I mean at its kind of like the core, this is we've called it like a competitive party game. I mean we all like playing party games. We all like playing competitive games. Seb's been bringing up a lot of AAA, insanely good first-person shooters that have like a really good competitive scene and have a pretty large skill gap. But at the same time, being a kind of a party game in nature, and as you can tell, there's a ton of platforming elements to this game. The idea is definitely to kind of create those skill gaps in player movement, and not just like you'll see in Fall Guys. The skill gap there is definitely like map knowledge, but you only have a small handful of abilities you could do in Fall Guys. But when you watch somebody that's good play it, they play
Yeah, you
it
can tell.
significantly better. Like it's not luck on their side. They're winning consistently because they understand the best routes to take. They understand when to like jump dodge and or jump dive and things like that. And I think what we're doing is just attempting to open up that ability pool to a much larger standpoint, but not keep those stats so radically different that it's sitting like an Overwatch where we're constantly balancing broken characters. And that's where like the Mario Kart or just a lot of the Mario titles themselves come into play here with their ability to kind of keep a tight range of stats and make characters feel unique without them being garbage.
Without it being like an esports title as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a fine line, right? I like the idea of there being a skill gap, and I think our whole team does. But at the end of the day, this is a competitive party game, as Scott said.
Yeah, like I can't do the bunny hop because I'm bad, but
Oh yeah, I'll talk about the bunny hop. I just nailed it. We're implementing a bunch of systems where if you happen to jump right after within like 5 frames of hitting the ground and you chain it together 3 times, you'll get that big flip jump. And if you get really good at that, I've had a ton of practice. Obviously, I built the mechanic, but it's pretty hard at first. And if you get really good at it, you can start getting like up to higher verticality areas much faster than other players. So there's definitely a skill gap in place here, and you will see good players moving a little different, and maybe you'll try and figure out how they're doing that. But again, for a later day, we'll get more into those deeper mechanics. But yeah, I think that kind of sums up a bunch of the new mechanics and the new map stuff we wanted to show off.
Yeah,
Thanks
just
for
a heads
everyone
up
who
too.
came in.
We this build that we're playing right now is, I mean, really fresh. We'll definitely do a playtest here soon that's got a larger amount of players. We had about 10 people in a game today that we're playing, but we're adding so many things that we're gonna take a step back, kind of resolve bugs and stuff like that, and then ideally on this next playtest, be able to start bringing some people in and showcasing some like higher intensity fights.
Yeah, 100%. The goal again is start with 10, 20, but eventually 40 players. We want to cram into a map that of that size that you just saw. So extreme chaos and
if that feels bad, we'll change it.
yeah, we'll change it. We'll pivot.
It's gonna happen. We'll pivot everything.
Cool.
Yeah, and if anyone else has any questions, definitely feel free to throw them in here.
Maybe I actually have a question. The sunglasses and stuff, are those
Yeah.
going to be composite NFTs, or are those intrinsic to the actual core FOAD?
So right now, their eyes, just because it might be hard to put sunglasses on like some of the crazier eyes that because we talked about this a little bit. Scott and I did, and we were brainstorming on it, but making them because maybe it would be funny in a specific way, but right now, obviously, if you have a character that has like 4 eyes, the sunglasses are a little weird or they overlap.
I get it. I get it.
But
So that the FOAD design needs to meet a certain criteria to even have this genesis.
kind of, yeah.
I mean, we want them.
Yeah.
We want them to all kind of fit together. We don't love the idea of clipping assets, and obviously with a generative system, that is a humongous thing that can occur, especially considering that these are live game objects and they're animated. We're not building a PFP project here.
Right.
So
right.
it's a lot easier to kind of formulate those things when that's the system. But these things need to move. They need to have gameplay functionality to them. So we're trying to be as tight as possible in order to make these things look good and unique and have like tons of variation, but not make them, cheap and clippy. I don't want to see things clipping.
Of course. I just love how I can go through this all day and just see so many different designs. It's really cool.
Yeah, that's often where a lot of the physics stuff come into play, like the handles being physics objects and the keychains, because it helps a lot. It looks a lot better, but it also helps with that clipping. These guys, when they jump, their keychains move correctly. They have joints in them so that they should wobble where they're supposed to.
So another cool thing that we have here is you'll see in the bottom right, there's a seed ID that represents this FOAD down here. And this will change obviously as I swap through them. And I can actually like save this seed ID. And using the engine, I can recreate this FOAD later. Because for example, this FOAD is so sick. I love this one. So I want to like save this for later and potentially mint it at some point. Things like that. We're trying to get these things up and running. For now, it's just all about the gameplay and making a fun gaming experience, right? Eventually, though, that like kind of collector fun part of what we're planning here will definitely be more prominent in these playtests. Talking about like what does this keychain that I'm attaching do to the gameplay? How am I affecting my FOAD? And how rare is this keychain? We're gonna have like live data and statistics about limited quantities of these digital goods, because I think that does add another layer of fun. And again, just because I have it and it's rare doesn't mean that a free-to-play player can't have the same exact thing functionally. It's just cosmetically it'll differ.
As obviously, we're doing asset ownership, so from a cosmetic standpoint, it's cool. But if you really want to match something and you like the stat on something you don't have, you have the ability to go into the Armory and buy, trade your assets without having to go on eBay and selling your account. So
yeah. Also, this FOAD TV keychain is so super sick. Love it. I actually haven't seen this yet.
That's a fun one because the screen LED is swappable for anything. So we'll definitely make a bunch of custom video clips on that.
Amazing. All right, so we'll plan for kind of getting to the more blockchainy bits at a later date. But yeah, I'm glad we got to show some new gameplay stuff, a bunch of new exciting map additions, traps, FOAD abilities, so on and so forth. And yeah, I think we'll wrap it up. Thank you everyone for tuning in. If there's any other questions, feel free to hit us up, and we'll be doing this pretty often. And next time, hopefully, we'll get 10 of us in there, maybe even 20.
Yeah, and keep looking out. We're gonna get closer to launching or releasing dates for playtests. We've got the time trial test that I just kind of briefly brought up. That's going to be out early next year. We've got our closed alphas. So look for roadmap and way more deeper information. But right now it's pure focus on getting this game to feel fun and functional, and then getting people to play it before we do anything further.
Amazing. Thanks, everyone. I think we're wrapping it up. I hope everyone has a great day, great holiday, great weekend, and we
Happy
will talk
holidays,
to y'all
everyone.
soon.
Thank you for tuning in.
Thanks,
See you
everyone.
guys.
Thanks, y'all. Have a great holiday.